all are very familiar with Western discourse and how it has dominated today's media. Specifically, I will be looking at how Western media covers natural disasters. Moreover, to paraphrase this guy, who's called Gregory Bancroft, I will be analyzing the discursive framework in which a hazard is presented and how they might do in a way which religions of the world are imagined. The text by Bancroft explores the representational theme of vulnerability, which is accurately portrayed in American and European news media. I will be primarily looking at the coverage of the Sichuan, or also commonly known as the Wenchuan earthquake of 2008. There are 3 news channels that present some of the ideas that Bancroft has explained. Going straight into the analysis, this NBC News segment opens with a wide shot of the news anchor. This shot is significant due to the establishment of the background, which consistently runs through the entire report, in which the red, white, and blue of the American flag are presented as the primary colors. Interestingly, Sky News, the British news channel, employs the exact same technique, where as you can see, the colors of the British flag evoke a sense of pride and clearly establish the relationship between the news presented and its country. Contrastingly, colors are not only used to represent the strength of the West, but to contrast itself from, quote-unquote, the other. The cut from the news anchor room, which features these bright colors, to the footage of the footage in Sichuan, where the colors have been muted to have a very gray tone, have connotations of hazard versus the bright colors in the newsroom, clearly making a distinction between the 2 different countries. Now moving back to footage of the NBC, this clip demonstrates the technique of special effects being employed, reflecting the theory that the West asserts their power and significance. The montage of clips of the earthquake is small in the background, and the primary focus remains on the anchor, who is reporting in the foreground. When discussing the discourse, Bancroft outlines how by establishing the West as the us and the rest of the world as the other, they managed to remain in power. This same color technique is used by the BBC, where, as you can see, all shots of Sichuan have an undertone of gray. Furthermore, the wide shot is employed, which represents an especially powerful image that is part of the discourse and how the media portrays the West need to save the other. The man who represents the West quite literally is standing over the ruins of the disaster and presenting its discourse. Moreover, as the news anchor speaks, the camera zooms into him, making him the primary focus of the shot supporting this claim. The pan technique is used dramatically in almost all of the television programs that will be further discussed. The pan is primarily used on disaster-stricken buildings to kind of reveal the damage of the building. Bancroft discussed how there's a common discourse that disease and decay is very prominent in the tropics. The theory of the other representing disaster and ruin, supporting the discourse of the West that there is something that needs to be saved, is also supported by the BBC, as the earthquake knocked down many building foundations, leaving them tilted. The somewhat close-up shots of the buildings where not the whole building is revealed creates a sense of distortion and a need for perhaps straightening, where this idea of saving comes from. This is also supported by the footage of the NBC. Later in the video, there's a shot of a Mao Zedong poster on the building still intact, clearly the center of focus. Due to the history of Mao, to the West, Mao represents disease, economic failure, and backwards thinking due to the Great Famine and state ideology. These are all characteristics of being quote-unquote undeveloped. China has come a long way since Mao Zedong's rule, but by including it, it creates a relationship between the natural disaster and the undevelopedness of the country. Thus, the salient techniques presented in these news programs on the Sichuan earthquake portray China as the other, the vulnerable population, the other that needs to be saved. These are just some characteristics that have allowed the West to dominate in discourse and remain dominant.
Thank you and good night.